Someone needed to replace Gardner.
Yeah. Ian Book. Yeah.
Are you ready to get to the drafts?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I accidentally shared it earlier.
Did you really?
I didn't share the draft. I accidentally hit the share screen earlier. So I'm going to go. Let's see. We'll do your Steelers mock draft first. And then we'll do the Bengals. We'll do the Steelers and then the Bengals. So this is your Steelers mock draft.
Yes.
Tell me about the Steelers and why you did this.
Okay. So at the top, just ignore the Ryan Hayes.
Okay.
That was for my Cardinals one that I did. So Kalijah Cansey. So I made this about a week or two ago. But I picked Kalijah Cansey, 17th overall. Might be a little bit of a stretch because I know that there's a Clemson guy, I believe, that also the Steelers were looking at. There's a lot of players that the Steelers have been, eyeing up. I kind of wanted to stay away from a cornerback just because we haven't had the best luck with cornerbacks in the first round, like straight up first round. 32nd pick is technically a second round pick, but it's still technically a first round pick. But I'll get into the cornerback thing in a minute. But I kind of want to stay away from cornerbacks. I kind of wanted to go with a lineman. I feel like we could use some line help, especially somebody. Go ahead. What?
Do you want to explain to people why that's the case? The 32nd pick.
Oh yeah. So we made a trade with Chicago and we got that pick. But basically what happened was Miami had to forfeit their pick for this year because of their weird scandal that went on with that their one coach that they had down there that I can't think of right now that is now working for Minnesota, I believe now. He's a coordinator.
Flores?
Yeah, Brian Flores. That's who it was. Yeah, Brian Flores. Yeah, there's that whole thing with Brian Flores, and I believe that caused them to forfeit their first-round pick this year. So with that being said,
they also had tampering with Brady.
Yeah, so there was a lot that happened down there. So with that being said, they had to forfeit that pick, and the Steelers traded for a second-round pick from Chicago in exchange for Chase Claypool. And since Miami missed out on their first-round pick and Chicago got the first overall pick, they technically would have been 32nd or 33rd if Miami was there. And now that's 32. So no, Miami and Chicago doesn't have a pick in the first two rounds now. But they also actually, do they? I don't remember if they got anything from that trade with the Panthers or what.
I can't remember. But Deontay Banks, cornerback.
Yeah, but Kalijah Cansey. I didn't finish my Kalijah Cansey thing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Kalijah Cansey, defensive lineman. He played for Pitt. I think he's solid. They've been going with their Pitt boys. They like their, Steelers always like to monitor their Pitt boys. So I feel like the defensive line help could help. But I think the reason they picked him was just for the Pitt aspect of it. So never want to pass up on a Pitt player if you can get them because sometimes they can end up being legends. But Deontay Banks, I think he's a solid cornerback out of Maryland. I wanted to take a cornerback. I think we could definitely use some cornerback help. Granted, I know that we just got, some help on the cornerback position. I know we just picked up Peterson and there's a lot of, help that's going on in that situation. But I think that a cornerback would obviously be very helpful for the Steelers, just kind of adding depth, and who knows what Deontay Banks could turn into. But he looks really good on paper. Hoping for him to come here, so I think that would be very, very solid of a pick. And then my next pick would be Drew Sanders, linebacker out of Arkansas. I feel like he is, I wouldn't say necessarily like completely like underrated per se, but I definitely think that he's definitely going to be one of those picks that kind of reminds me of like a defensive type George Pickens, where if the Steelers were to draft him, he might actually make a lot more noise than just like I've never heard of this guy, but he played really well. And he looks very good in video footage too. So I really think Drew Sanders would be just a solid linebacker for the Steelers. I think he would develop into a really good player. Now, my next pick, I've talked about him a ton, but hear me out. Okay. Hear me out. Jordan Battle, safety, Alabama. And I figured, we would help out the defense. Obviously, most of these picks are defense guys, but I think Jordan Battle would be a great safety that would play with Minka, with the Alabama boys and stuff like that. And I know they never played together, but it's still, Minka, Alabama, Jordan Battle out of Alabama. But also we lost Edmonds, I'm pretty sure we also had lost Allen, so we're kind of struggling right now with safeties. So I think Jordan Battle would be kind of a pretty decent replacement, and I think he can develop. He might take a little bit of time to develop, but I think he'll be a strong guy out there. As a strong safety, I'm pretty sure he's played both positions, so I think he would be really good because he's swapped with Branch a lot. So, but I think that I think Battle's a solid guy, and no, it's not my bias. I think that I truly think that Jordan Battle would be a solid Steelers pick. Now, granted, do I think he's going to end up with the Steelers? Probably not, because they're probably going to pick something. I don't know what the heck they're going to do, but this is what I think would be beneficial for them, because I think Jordan Battle might end up being a sleeper pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
For those of you who don't know, Chus has been hyping up Jordan Battle for like the last 3 years.
Yes, I have a Jordan Battle Seattle Seahawks shirt because of Madden. So
yes.
I drafted him in Madden, and he was my all-star free safety. So he got a 102-yard pick six in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So he was crazy. And that was the start of the Jordan Battle era for me.
Too bad he'll never do that for the Steelers.
Well, listen, okay. There's just so many crazy connections with it. I mean, Josh, we have a friend that literally went to school with him.
Okay,
so,
okay.
I mean, it kind of added more to that hype. So, I'm very big on this guy. 5th round, wide receiver help, Parker Washington. We like to draft our wide receivers a little later on. I mean, sometimes we like to draft them a little earlier, but I think, with the defense, I think we need to focus a little bit on defense. I didn't end up getting a tackle, as you can see, in my draft at all, which might be a little bit of a flaw in my thing. But I think that, with what we're building right now, with the tackles and stuff, I don't know necessarily if they would want to go out and draft a tackle, when I think defense could really be great to just build that strong defense, because in the end, defense does win championships. So, but going on to Parker Washington, drafting wide receiver late, Steelers have been looking at Parker Washington, Penn State guy. He's pretty solid wide receiver. I think that he'd be a good benefit for the team, and I think that he could develop into a really good player. Haven't seen a whole lot from him. Totally, I haven't watched a lot of his tape, but I think that he could be pretty solid, and the Steelers have already been looking at him. DJ Johnson, edge, just kind of adding depth. I mean, he's an Oregon guy. I mean, I feel like he could be really good. Definitely could use the edge help for the Steelers. And then lastly, I just put this on here because I've seen a lot of Steelers mocks have Stetson Bennett in it. So I just figured, why not throw Stetson Bennett in there? He would end up replacing Mason Rudolph, and he would end up backing up Mitchell Trubisky until Mitchell Trubisky would go off of his contract, and then Stetson Bennett and Kenny would be running it. The only problem I do have with my own personal pick with this is the conflict with it. If Kenny Pickett's not doing good and the Steelers fans get mad, they're going to be like, put Stetson Bennett in. He's actually won natties and blah, 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 blah. So it might cause friction with fan bases and stuff like that. And I don't know how it would end up, but I mean, if Kenny Pickett ended up not doing that well over the next couple of years, Stetson Bennett might end up being an older quarterback, but he ended up being that a solid late round pick that you'd never really thought. Now, I think one thing I'd personally change from mine is I would probably draft a tackle somewhere, probably in the later rounds, maybe instead of DJ Johnson, maybe just a tackle, just kind of like a filler, or maybe even a little further up. But or maybe even try to get one in the 17th pick instead of Kalijah Kancey. But
I love my draft.
Yeah, but Deontay Banks, Drew Sanders, Jordan Battle, Parker Washington's. I think I'm very content with those. But yeah, so that's my Steelers one. So you want to show me yours, or do you want to show the Bengals one?
I'll show my Steelers one. Kalijah Kancey is a guy that the Bengals have also been looking at as well. So I'm somewhat familiar with him. Let me see here. My Steelers mock. Let's see here. I've got 4. For some reason, I only did 4 rounds. So you only get to see 4 rounds.
Well, because you didn't you do a trade or something?
Yeah, I got bored and I traded. That's what happened. But anyway, safety, I took Brian Branch from Alabama.
Yeah, that's also somebody that's been bouncing around the Steelers.
So not necessarily your boy Jordan Battle, but Brian Branch. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Someone Bengals have kind of maybe thought about him, but they didn't really think he would be there, so it wasn't serious. 2nd round, your 32nd pick, second round, first round pick, DeJuan Jones, tackle. He's a first round, second round guy, another guy that the Bengals are looking at. If he's somehow there when we need him. My dad is calling me on my watch. Then I took a linebacker for depth, like you said.
Yeah.
I can't say that. Henley,
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he's pretty solid too. The way that my things have been falling, it was a lot of the Arkansas guy. So
cornerback. I took Garrett Williams. I took a late round cornerback, like you said. And then I took a safety for depth, Ronnie Hickman, who I've also heard a lot of good things about. Maybe drafted him a little bit early, but I think he'll be good depth. Maybe Minka's getting a little bit older as well, kind of.
He is, yeah. So it might be good to have the depth. I actually agree with that a lot just because, as I said, we lost Edmonds, and I'm pretty sure we also lost Marcus Allen. I would have to fact check myself on that, but we definitely would need safety help. So that might actually be good to have, Branch and Hickman because, if Branch is not doing good or if Branch is doing good and he needs a break or Minka needs a break, it might be good to throw in Hickman. So,
and then I traded, like I said, I got bored. So I traded your 7th round picks and next year's round 2 for Tyler Lockett. So I had to kind of ruin the Steelers somehow. I think Tyler Lockett's a good veteran presence in the locker room, though. I don't really.
So you don't know what happened in the 5th and 6th rounds?
No, I don't.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know what happened. But
interesting. But okay. Lockett would be interesting. I don't know if the Steelers would go that route, but it would definitely be interesting on my end to see, just because Deontay Johnson's going to be up this year in contract. I don't know if we're going to end up re-signing him. I think Pickens is going to be our wide receiver 1, but also it's not like we have any. Like, we have some decent wide receivers on 3, 4, and 5, and even 6, but it's not like they're like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be a stud or something like that. I mean,
Well, Lockett's just a veteran presence, I think, that you can.
Yeah, but I think he can also be a solid receiver too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You have him play slot or something. I think he could be really good.
Yep. So, and then I'll pull up your Bengals one.
Yeah. So
see here.
Remember, me and you both, we don't know much about each other's teams. I'm just basing it a lot off of what they told me that I should draft, position wise, and what you.
This isn't terrible.
Yeah, what you had said. So I'm gonna pull it up on my phone so I can kind of see it better. But basically, I drafted Anton Harrison, tackle, because you always complain about how we need O-line help or whatever, and I think that you're like, Joe Burrow will never be touched again.
He never getting sacked again.
Yeah, because of them signing that one guy, Orlando Brown or whatever, and I think adding Anton Harrison might be really good too, just because then at that point, if he ends up developing really good, you guys are going to have an unstoppable O-line. I ended up getting DJ Turner for you, cornerback. So think you guys could use some cornerback help a little bit there. Not that your cornerbacks are bad, just never hurts. I put safety Chris Smith the second, Georgia guy. I think for you, with the loss of Jesse Bates, and I know you guys have since replaced him, I believe, if I'm not wrong, you guys have replaced Jesse Bates. I think Chris Smith would be a good guy that if your safety that you just signed doesn't work out, I think he could be really good. So in the 4th round, I would have went with Abanikanda had I had known where he was going to fall, but I didn't really know where Israel Abanikanda would have fallen. So he ended up falling in the 5th round, but I ended up picking for you guys Dwayne McBride, running back for UAB, who I feel like, although UAB isn't a school that's talked about a lot because it's UAB. I mean, it's nothing against UAB, but it's not a school that a lot of teams talk about just because they're just kind of around. I mean, it just happens. I mean, a lot of teams are like that, but I only knew about UAB because of March Madness last year. But UAB, Dwayne McBride had pretty good stats this year, and I think he would be a decent backup running back. I don't really know what you guys are doing with the Joe Mixon thing and all that. I'm guessing you guys are holding on to them and stuff. And so I think McBride might be a really good solid RB2, and he has potential. So, And then I picked the tight end, Will Mallory. You know, I mean, he's just he played for Miami. I kind of watched him play in the ACC, so I kind of know what he's about. He's a
Ooh,
you
got us a little voice crack.
Yeah, you know, Chus, I guess, is having a voice change again. But I picked Will Mallory because I feel like he would be definitely a decent tight end for you guys. I don't know if he'd be the saving grace tight end, but I definitely think he would help for you guys. You know, definitely think you guys could use him as depth. I picked Braden Daniels, kind of another like lineman. You never know. Linemen's, they get hurt and stuff. You never know. And then last pick, I picked a wide receiver. Not that you guys really need one, but he could develop as a better wide receiver for you in case you lose Boyd, or, you know, if you can't end up signing Higgins or something like that. I don't know how to say his name, but he played for Princeton and he had pretty decent numbers. So, and I think, if I'm not wrong, he is from Honolulu, Hawaii. So that's pretty cool.
Well,
so I think he would be a solid wide receiver for you guys to hopefully develop. And he would be a late round pick. You wouldn't even have to really draft him real early on.
Dude, Higgins changed his number. He's here to stay.
Hey, I'm not saying I'm not saying Higgins, but I know eventually at some point I don't think Tyler Boyd is going to end up staying. Not because he wouldn't want to. It's just as time moves on, you know, you might not be able to afford him. You might be, you know, wanting to retire. You may want too much money for what other powerhouse teams or players you have. So, let's look at yours. What do you have?
So let's see here. Oh, I don't want. Okay. So I took a tackle in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I made this after the Irv Smith signing, the Irv Smith Jr. signing. So tight end wasn't necessarily as big of a priority anymore. I'd still like to see Michael Mayer in the first round if we can, but I couldn't get him. Luke Whippler, center for the Bengals. He would become a depth piece for Ted Karras. And I think that could be good. He was also a guy I drafted for the Cardinals, and I like him. Jamie Robinson, this is a guy that Joe from the Cardinal Rule was kind of spotlighting while I was on the show, and he kind of sold me on him. I was like, you know, this guy could actually be good if we can get him in a late round. We did. He fell to the third round. Dax Hill, like I've said, I'm not completely sold on him. Hopefully he does well. And then Nick Scott, who we got from the Rams, he's also not a guy I'm completely sold on because, well, he hasn't really played for the Bengals yet, but we'll see. So getting some safety depth is going to be big. Keandre Coburn from Texas, defensive line, interior. I forget words. He's a guy who is another depth piece for now. DJ Reader has been great, but DJ Reader is also kind of older, and he is coming up on a contract extension in like 1 or 2 years. So he might either be walking or he might just get hurt, and we need a depth piece. So that was kind of why I drafted him. Then Davis Allen, he'd be a backup tight end to Irv Smith. But he's there, he fell, and I think that would be a good pickup for the Bengals to just have more tight ends than just Irv Smith and Devin Asiasi. But quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, when I get some new blood in the quarterback room to compete for the backup position with Brandon Allen. He's a Purdue boy. I believe he is the highest rated backup quarterback in this draft. So not Will Levis or any of those guys, but I don't know, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. But late round quarterback, he's the highest rated one that I'm aware of. And so he's going to come down to Cincinnati, compete with Brandon Allen for the backup position. We'll see what happens. And then you can never have too much O-line depth. Got to have that O-line guy there to protect Joey B, because Joey B's never getting touched again. And so I picked up Richard from Florida. I'm not going to attempt to say his last name. Just a nice little depth piece. And then, of course, I had to do this beautiful trade. I don't know how I got it 1-for-1, but it happened. Austin Eckler is coming to Cincinnati. He's going to replace Samaje Perine, who is now a Denver Bronco. And we're going to have Austin Eckler and Joe Mixon in the backfield. It's going to be insane. Jonah Williams gets what he wants. He gets traded because he doesn't want to be a right tackle. That's okay. We got DeJuan Jones now, and DeJuan Jones is going to play right tackle. So we've got it all figured out, man. This is, if those two things happen,
Yes.
perfect draft.
I hope for you.
That's actually all I need to happen is that trade. If that trade happens, chef's kiss.
I don't think it'll be a 1-for-1. I think there's going to be some draft picks in there. I from one or the other team. I think it might not be this year, but it might be like a 6th round 2024 pick or something. Just because you know how those trades end up being. They never end up being simple like that anymore. It's just, I wish they would, but they're never.
Well, Austin Eckler's just this undrafted guy who, like, he wasn't even drafted in 2017. The Chargers gave him a chance. Jonah Williams is a former first-round pick. We're losing on this.
I guess, yeah, you're losing a lot from this. So, in fact, they should give you 3 first-round picks.
They should, really.
With Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
In exchange for you losing out on this first-round talent tackle.
I'm being nice.
Yeah, that's very considerate of you, Josh. Yeah, honestly, I think you should be the GM of the Bengals coming up. Josh Butts for GM for the Bengals in 2030.